Hello everyone, and welcome to Everything is Final Fantasy. I'm Drew Kreisman, and I am recording this on November 30th, 2025. I say that because this is going to be a scheduling and organizational podcast. Doesn't that sound fun and exciting? Hey, I hope everyone's Thanksgiving went great. Hope everyone is excited and ready for your winter holidays or solstices, or just snuggling up inside, warm and cozy with a good book, a good video game, and some good company. Hey, I wanted to come on here and talk about, like I said, some organizing and some scheduling, because I've made the decision, I was going to say to reorganize this entire Everything is Final Fantasy venture, but truth be told, it's never been organized in the first place. Most of you have known that, especially if you've followed us for a long time. We've been on several different platforms. We've sometimes been releasing episodes very, very quickly, sometimes very, very slowly. I know how all of that goes, and this is mostly going to pertain to people who've been listening on Spotify, but I am going to try to create a kind of uniform scheduling mode here for all of us. Though, like I said, if you're listening on Spotify, a lot of that's going to be repeat if you have done YouTube already, but there's going to be plenty of new content. Anyway, let me just explain what's going on here. From now on, you can expect from me 3 pieces of content a week. Whoa, that's kind of crazy. Okay, you're going, wait a minute, now you're going from maybe sometimes every once in a while to 3 a week? Well, first of all, some of that is going to be, like I said, backlog. A lot of the stuff that we've created either just for YouTube or sometimes just for Patreon, I'm going to make available as audio content on Spotify. And so some of the stuff's going to be some of the 10-minute long essays we've done, some of the 30-minute long essays we've done, things that we never included on Spotify for the podcast, in giant air quotes, because right, the Everything is Final Fantasy podcast, where my brother and I go chronologically through the games, was the only kind of content we ever thought we were going to make. Now it's just a part of what we do, right? And admittedly, it's slower. That is the part that takes the most amount of research for Ira and I to get our notes together, to make sure we're playing the game at the same time, that we're on the same page, that we can schedule times to get together. And so, as we move into Final Fantasy IX, that is, if you're on Patreon, you're going to get those episodes as soon as they're available on the Friday of the week that I record them. It's going to be Final Fantasy Fridays. Every Friday of every month, I'm going to have Final Fantasy content for you of some variety. Again, especially here on the Spotify, and some of that's going to be cross-applied from YouTube. On Patreon, of course, that's going to include our new show, The Phoenix Downbeat, which, for those of you who haven't heard that yet, is a deep dive that our friend Ryan Laney is taking us on through the musics of Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy adjacent titles and all kinds of things. And it's been a great deal of fun. And so if you're listening on Spotify, now once a month you're going to be getting an episode of The Phoenix Downbeat. If you'd rather hear all 12 of them immediately, the Patreon only costs $1, and several of them you can go and find on YouTube, right? So you get how this is working. Some of it is attempt to monetize a little bit. A lot of it really is to make sure that there's a better synergy working between the podcast, and I keep saying Spotify, and hey, look, I also know there's a lot of political things going on with Spotify right now. The last thing I want to do is support that particular group. We actually use something called Acast, which puts your stuff out there on everything. So it's also on Apple Music, Amazon Music, whatever podcast you listen to. As much as I'd love to, join the general protest against a lot of these places, I've been advertising on Facebook a lot lately too. We quit Twitter, and that cost us, quite frankly, a lot. But I still think it was the right thing to do. There's an extent to which this is a very complicated conversation, but on the other hand, I just, I made a little meme about it and said sometimes you're forced to use the tools of your enemy to try to defeat them, right? I don't know that just shrinking our podcast and our voices away from the world is the best way to fight against it. So if we can continue to grow our community a little bit, grow our voice, and make a little money for ourselves, through their tools, we'd rather use other ones. If people have other ideas for better ways to distribute the podcast and make some money, please let me know. But for now, again, I'm talking about, when I use the word Spotify, I'm speaking broadly of any podcast app you may be using. So every Friday now, you're going to be getting a piece of Final Fantasy content. Like I said, a lot of the times that's going to be reappropriated old content that's now in audio form. Some of the time that's going to be new content like the Phoenix Downbeat. And after a short delay, Ira and I are about 6 episodes into Final Fantasy IX, so once we start getting into double digits, in other words, once I feel like I can give you the Final Fantasy IX episodes once a month or once a week or once every other week uninterrupted, then I want to do that. So that's how this is going to work. Right? At first, this might sound a little weird and complicated, but stick with me here. It's going to go Otherworld Wednesdays, Final Fantasy Fridays. On Wednesday, I'm going to drop a piece of content on Spotify and or YouTube and Patreon that doesn't really have anything to do with Final Fantasy necessarily, but it is my brother and I speaking. For those of you that have heard some of this stuff, we've had conversations on Lord of the Rings, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Studio Ghibli movies, plenty of things like that, right? So that's what Otherworld Wednesdays are going to be for. My brother and I talking about, sometimes just me, mostly Ira and I talking about mostly science fiction and fantasy, and trust me, we bring up Final Fantasy a lot. It's why this whole adventure became Everything is Final Fantasy, right? So that's what Wednesdays are going to be for. Fridays are going to be for your Final Fantasy content, and one of those every single month is going to be the Phoenix Downbeat, a music one, right? And once I start going for you on these, is going to be the standard Everything is Final Fantasy podcast that you're used to. My brother and I going meticulously and chronologically through the games, right? I'm also going to open up more Q&As. Again, if you've been listening on your podcast app and not on YouTube or Patreon, you've probably noticed that once we concluded Final Fantasy VIII, you got hit with a bunch of Q&As here. I'm going to try to spread those out a little bit, but that was me sort of testing the grounds for the podcast not being specifically structured the way it was before, and I think that it worked well. And so, like I said, I do apologize if you were really excited to get directly into Final Fantasy IX. If you do, again, the one answer to, if anything, any part of the show doesn't feel like it's available to you, it's right there on Patreon. A lot of it's for free on Patreon, but most of it's only behind a $1 paywall. So if you want to get right into Final Fantasy IX, definitely go there. But if you're fine just waiting a little bit and you like all this other Final Fantasy content and you want to get it for free, which I totally understand, just hang on here because there's going to be a lot of Final Fantasy content coming your way. Hi. My son wanted to say hi really quick. And also, the one thing, so there are a couple of downsides to this, I'll admit. I'd held off on this idea for 2 main reasons for a little while. One, I know a lot of people subscribe to podcasts on apps, and I'm about to go from putting 2 or 3 episodes on your notifications to 8 per month, and it's gonna be a lot, and I don't want to feel like I'm overwhelming or flooding the zone with a bunch of stuff that you can't listen to. The other thing is that the clarity of individual episodes can be difficult. I understand it was a very easy show to follow before. Now that I'm about to put all of these other things that aren't the exact same structure of the show, it might be difficult. Like I said, if you just want to do, here are the Final Fantasy VII episodes, here are the Final Fantasy VIII episodes, I don't care about the Q&As, I just want to get to Final Fantasy IX, well, now there's going to be kind of a bunch of stuff in the way. I'm going to look through each app. Unfortunately, each distributing service has a different way of kind of creating playlists, creating chapters, creating, making it organizationally much easier for you so that anything you don't want to see won't show up on your feed. Unfortunately, right now, I think the big negative to me going this way is that there's going to be a lot more stuff on your Everything is Final Fantasy feed that isn't the standard show that you've been listening to for most of this time. I hope you enjoy all of the extra content, and that's not a problem. I fully understand if anybody goes, hey, this is too much and you're kind of flooding my phone here. Not obviously what I was trying to do, but I would encourage anyone who's not interested in that to check out either the YouTube or the Patreon there, where it's much easier for me to make playlists. So if you just want to listen to, say, the Final Fantasy Tactics episodes on YouTube, there's a playlist right there. There's your 17 episodes of Final Fantasy Tactics, and nothing else that we've done is going to bother you, right? Where for now, like I said, I'm gonna try this out. I'm basically doing a trial balloon for December here, where I am, and I left this last part out to the end for DC Productions, which is technically separate from Everything is Final Fantasy, and I've tried to combine the two and figure out a way, and there just isn't, and so that's kind of a bummer, right? I am going to be recording smaller podcasts every Monday. These are going to be brand new, so it's me Monday, a little bit of me on Monday, Other Worlds on Wednesday, and Final Fantasy on Fridays, right? That's our schedule. Me Monday, Other World Wednesday, Final Fantasy Friday. The me stuff will be on DC Productions. That'll be the dad pod that I do with Ira, talking about raising my son. There'll be some of my political or social commentary, whatever I've come up with, whatever's on my mind, whatever's grinding my gears that particular day, week, weekend, whatever. There's plenty of to talk about out there in the world. It probably won't be related much to pop culture, right? Video games, television, movies, that kind of stuff, all moving over to Everything is Final Fantasy. So on Mondays, over on my channel, I'm going to talk about me and my worldview and my perspective and doing that on Mondays. Then on Wednesdays, we're reaching out in the worlds of Studio Ghibli, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, a lot of that extra stuff that's sort of Final Fantasy adjacent. And then every Friday, from now until I run out of stuff, I'm going to be posting Final Fantasy content, at least on Spotify and YouTube. Obviously, Ira and I need to produce new stuff in order to make that true for the Patreon. But again, with some Q&As, with some smaller topic ideas that we've been doing lately, I think we're going to be able to keep up with that at least for a little bit. In addition to, the original podcast is still going to exist. We're going to get back into Final Fantasy IX very soon. And again, the Phoenix Downbeat, which is really a big part of this show that we've been doing with our friend Ryan Laney. Either every week or every other week we've been recording. We've got 12 episodes of them now, like I said. And I'm going to be dropping one of those for free a month on Spotify. If you really, really want to hear the rest of them, go and check out Patreon. And most of them are actually up now on YouTube as well. So let me know if any of that was overly confusing, completely unnecessary, whatever it was. I at least wanted to make sure to come on here, let you all know this is sort of the plan moving forward. I hope that, like I said, it doesn't cause you any issues in terms of your organization or your clarity of how you keep the podcast, but I ultimately came down on the side of offering people more stuff is better than going through those times where I'm not 100%. We haven't recorded anything new. We've both gotten busy. Something's going on out in the world or whatever. And then I just don't give you anything for a couple of weeks or sometimes a whole on month, right? And so I think this will be a better way of keeping me honest and of letting you all know what to expect, that it'll become consistent. After a while, you'll just know. You'll wake up on a Wednesday morning. I'll probably try to have these posted by 8 or 9 Mountain Time each of these mornings, right? So my me Mondays, Otherworld Wednesday, Final Fantasy Friday. First thing in the morning, you should wake up and have your new show about that topic. Oh, the one last point I didn't make is when I start something. So, for example, my brother and I did, I believe, 5 episodes on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Just the movie from 1990, right? So if I were to say start this Wednesday with episode 1 of our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The following Wednesday will be episode 2 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm not going to then do like episode 1 of Lord of the Rings and then episode 1 of Star Wars, right? And then have to go search for episode 2. Once I start a series, then that's what you'll get on Wednesdays until that series has completed. The Friday stuff, the Final Fantasy stuff is going to jump around a lot. And I think eventually what I'm going to do is declare either the first or the last Friday of any given month the day when the official podcast drops, right? But like I said, if you're subscribed on Patreon, then you will still get whatever the newest Everything is Final Fantasy podcast is on the Friday that we recorded. I just can't. This has been true forever. I cannot guarantee when we will or won't record. So this way I can at least guarantee that I'll have some kind of content for you on a regular basis. I hope that all makes sense. I hope you're all doing well. I hope this works out. It's going to be fun. Let's see what happens. Thank you all for being absolutely awesome out there. I'll keep being absolutely Drew Creasman in here. And until next time, I will see you out there in the world.